Putin in his messianic, crazed petulance bombards Kiev and Western Ukraine while the meeting goes on is, I think, testimony to the fact that he feels excluded.
As to how you view these summits, from my point of view, it's something quite mysterious. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors. There's the awkward photo opportunities, but you'll have a better idea of what actually goes on. How much is achieved behind the scenes, and how much of it is just groundwork for stuff that is achieved in later weeks and months?
Well, the G7 meetings are one of the international formations of government leaders and heads of state that actually achieves more than some of the bigger groupings that you come across. I mean, there's G20, there's the UN itself. These are all useful at the margins, but the G7 has a track record going back to its foundation at the beginning of the 1970s of actually getting stuff done, because to be perfectly honest with you, the smaller and the less public, the better. And that's one of the reasons why these photo shoots of the sort of grinning seven always look a little bit awkward. It does help leaders to get to know each other better, and it does help where leaders who haven't been getting on terribly well, viz. Johnson and Macron, are able to take some of the heat out of the antagonism. And so far, watching what's going on, I think this meeting in the G7 is doing quite well.
Does there always have to be a particular personality who, not dominates is not the word, but who stands out? If you look at that picture, and perhaps we shouldn't just look at pictures, perhaps we should look at, who's saying what and who's doing what. But does there always have to be one individual who stands out?
No, it doesn't have to be one individual who stands out, and the personal chemistry between the seven will vary depending on who the leaders are. I tell you, one who did stand out by sheer force of personality was Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher at G7 meetings was followed by the press more than any other leader, because she could be relied on to say something pungent and to the point, which no other leader was able to do in public. So there's no obligation for one leader to be appointed the main spokesman of the group. It just comes out of the wash. And Boris Johnson is not a person to hide his talent in the bushes, is he? And no. He will come out and speak his mind.
Yes. So it sounds very much like you believe he should be there, because obviously the G7 is incredibly important. But there are others who will say, well, hang on a second, things are pretty rocky at home for the Conservative Party, for the government right now. They just lost two by-elections. They've lost Oliver Dowden. Do you think that this is the right time for Boris Johnson to be on this extended trip?
Of course it's the right time to be on this. I mean, this is absolute tosh and twaddle. It doesn't matter whether Johnson has 30% approval ratings or 90% approval ratings, whether he's lost two by-elections or won a handful. These are international meetings that require a British presence at the right level, and the right level is that of the Prime Minister. And incidentally, just take a look at the other leaders. Are they in strong domestic political positions? Macron's just had his wings clipped by serious losses in the French legislative elections. I would put to you that Biden is in a more precarious position in the Democratic Party than Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party. Draghi's coalition in Italy is wobbly. Scholz's coalition in Germany is wobbly even more. And so you go on. So none of these leaders, none of the main personalities are enjoying, how can I put it, a flowering of popularity and strengthening domestic position.
No, that's a lot of wobbling. Just finally, Sir Christopher, do you think that the photograph of the leaders' wives is a bit old-fashioned in 2022?
Well, if the photographs of the leaders themselves sometimes look a bit stilted, the photographs sometimes of the spouses, and I stress the word spouse because they aren't all women, looks perhaps even more stilted. But they don't do any harm. I haven't heard any objections from any quarter. You're the first person who's ever posed a question I've ever heard.
Oh, really? It wasn't me, actually. It was my co-presenter.
The people I mix with. I can see Stig laughing there. It's all very well. But
Can I ask another question then, Christopher, about
far away.
Scruffiness? Does it matter that Boris Johnson is the scruffiest of the seven? Does that matter? Because people do say this about him, that he should put his collar in, he should tuck his shirt in, he should dress better, and that becomes part of the chorus of criticism that Boris Johnson faces. Does that ever matter, do you think, on the world stage? Where if you look how absolutely chic many of the leaders that surround him look, does that matter in your view?
Well, I would return the compliment to you and say, doesn't that kind of comment, isn't that a little bit old-fashioned?
Wow.
I mean, who gives a toss what these guys wear, so long as they turn up and do the job, do the business. And if Macron, for example, turned up in a pair of shorts and a T-shirt, I wouldn't give a damn, so long as the business gets done. And looking at the way this thing has been going and where it's been choreographed and what's been going on in substance, I would say that this is a meeting which has achieved quite a lot already. And the fact that Putin, in his messianic, crazed petulance, bombards Kiev from Western Ukraine while the meeting goes on is, I think, testimony to the fact that he feels excluded, as he is, rightly so, and the fact that it's doing stuff that's going to do him damage.
So Christopher Meyer, thank you very much. And we will just add that he's looking very smart today, and he had his collars tucked in. So I think he does actually care. That is Sir Christopher Meyer, former British ambassador to the US and Germany.